his mentality is if the government steps in to try and stop the recession, it's going to make it even worse. Right. So I don't know, man. I mean, that's why I think real estate is the safest play that you could do in any market, because regardless, someone always needs a place to live and someone always needs a place to store their stuff. Right.
Welcome to the Cash Flow Chronicles. I'm your host, Jonny and the founder of Cattani Capital Group. For the last 2 years, I've been studying alternative assets and now help solve the problem of creating passive cash flow for creators, influencers, and busy professionals by bringing you 5 episodes a week of easy to understand education in the world of passive investing. What's up, guys? And welcome to another episode of the Investor Relations Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Jonny Cattani, and I'm joined today by DePaoli, owner and founder of D3 Enterprises, which owns and operates various entities, including Grit Fitness and D3 Capital. Grit Fitness is a big box gym that caters to all fitness enthusiasts, providing the necessary tools and training to achieve their personal health and fitness goals. D3 Capital is a boutique investment firm that focuses on commercial real estate acquisitions, particularly in the multifamily asset class. He's also a friend, fellow Raise Master, the man himself. Bo, welcome.
What's up, Johnny?
Great to have you. Stoked to chat today.
Yeah, man.
We just had basically an entire off-camera podcast episode.
Yeah.
Figured we may as well hit record. Bo and I are in the same accountability group. We've been chatting for a while. So very good friends, very excited to chat today. So let's get into it. What were you doing before all this? I want to know. I actually don't think I know your whole story. So kind of tell us what kind of led you to where you're at now.
Yeah. Well, I'll rewind several years. So before I went into business for myself, I was running a family business. We were a industrial construction company. So we did a lot of work in like steel mills, power plants, refineries. We did everything from project management to maintenance. So when the facilities would go down to make their repairs, we would bring our crews in. We grew when I came on board with my dad, it was my dad's company. He had like 30 employees. And then by the time I left, there was about 300 employees.
Wow.
We would ramp up to 1,000 employees when facilities would do their downturns. So I did that for like 10 years. And then I had the opportunity to buy some fitness centers in my area that were going under. So I took advantage of it. I was kind of burnt out on the construction industry. It's very, very competitive for very, very low margins. Like I think the industry average is like 2%.
Jeez.
So, yeah. Cow. I mean, and you figure like as a contractor, you're liable for everything, right? So if somebody gets hurt on your site, it's your butt, right? And that just to me was like 2% wasn't worth it. So I left that and started my own business with the fitness industry or the fitness centers. I turned those around in the first year. As I was saying earlier, I was actually, I bought into the World Gym franchise. I was a franchisee for several years. When my franchise agreement was up, I debranded from them, and I did that right before COVID. So I debranded, created my own brand, and then COVID hit 2 months later. We got shut down. I had just done a major renovation on one of my facilities. I had 2 facilities at the time. I did a major renovation. 2 months in, we reopened the doors. 2 months in, COVID hit. We got shut down. We were shut down for about 3 months, which is not bad compared to some other states. I know some other states that were shut down for like 10 months, during COVID is what kind of made me decide to pivot into real estate, which is something that I always wanted to do anyways. My plan was I was going to take profits from the gym and start buying, commercial property. But I knew that when COVID hit, I needed to pivot hard and pivot fast. So that's when I decided to just get into the syndication business. And that's what I've been doing ever since. I'm running the gyms and I'm running the real estate side as well, chasing after, multifamily properties.
I love it. Do you still just have 2 locations? Do you have more now?
I actually sold one. I sold my smaller of the 2 last year. Was it last year? Yeah, last year. I'm still a part owner of it, but I'm not running the day to day. I stayed on as a minority.
That's probably nice.
Yeah. So that's kind of just more passive for me now. I run my larger location, which that one there, we're actually getting ready to do a big renovation on that one as well. But really, I would say that 90% of my focus has been on the D3 capital, the syndication and the real estate.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, it takes a lot. We were talking about this offline, and everyone you talk to is going to tell you this, and this is why no one does it, but doing how hard it is to do your first deal. Tell us how many deals you've underwritten now without actually having something under contract. And this is not, you guys, this is not to poke fun. This is to shed light on how difficult this is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that jokingly, we were kind of saying like, we probably got in at the wrong time. We got in at the peak, right?
Yep.
But year to date, I've underwritten almost 600 properties, multifamily properties, almost. We're like 585 or something like that. So, and I would say 98% of them don't pencil at all. And then the 2% that do, what's the expression? It's like you're the chicken coop and all the wolves are coming in trying to get that same deal, especially the institutional guys, because the institutional guys have so much capital sitting on the sideline that they've got to deploy that us little guys, it's hard to compete against them. Yeah.
And their cost of capital is so low that they can just deploy. They're okay with razor thin margins.
Yeah.
Whereas us, we have, investors to pay. Then hopefully somewhere in there is money for us to put food on our table.
Right.
So, what we're talking about, guys, with deals pencil underwriting, at least for me, I'm usually like I've got my process down to about 25, and I'm a student self-storage, but about 25 minutes, I can know if I want to go further with the deal. But, that's 25 minutes every single time. And I have like a little 10-minute back napkin thing I can do before I even get to that. But yeah, I mean that, you're looking at, that many before one's good, then LOI and the best in finals, man. Some of these reports I'm hearing about these deals on these multifamily assets are insane.
Yeah.
Is anything changing for you? Obviously, interest rates are going up like crazy. They're going to go up even more. What if anything's changing?
We are seeing a lot of those big players are kind of sitting on the sidelines now, waiting to see what happens, which is good for us. I think that's an opportunity for us smaller investors on the retail side. We are seeing cap rates starting to creep up a little bit more. We were saying earlier that the Feds are meeting next week, right? And they're supposed to bump rates 75 bips, which is huge. And then they're going to supposedly do another 50 bips in September. So we're going to see rates creeping towards 7-8% here very soon. And a lot of the debt guys that I talk to, the lenders, they're trying to come up with creative ways to still get loans done because everyone's so used to these like 0% interest rates from the Feds that they're not used to seeing 7-8%, which you figure before 08, that was pretty common, right?
Yep.
6 to 8% was a common interest rate, both home and commercial. And people just got so complacent with that now they're having to figure out different ways to get deals done, whether it's a longer amortization period, they're chopping their spreads a little bit. I even talked to my debt guy yesterday that said on the bridge side that they've got guys that are not even requiring a rate cap, which is crazy to me,
What?
Yeah, because you know how expensive rate caps we're getting.
Right.
Some of these guys aren't even requiring rate caps now. And rate cap is, depending on the size of the deal, could be upwards of 125 basis points cost to buy a rate cap on a deal, you know? So if you're buying a $50 million deal, obviously, you know, your self-storage is a little bit different, right? Than multifamily. But,
Right.
you know, if you're buying a $50 million deal, you know, you're spending, you know, upwards of $1 million for a rate cap just to keep your rate locked in during that bridge period.
Holy cow. And so they're not requiring, so, and what do these guys think, that interest rates are going to go down? They're taking on these bridge loans with no rate caps?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what they're, I don't know.
Bold strategy.
Yeah, it is because now think of the reverse, right? Think of the people that were getting bridge loans 12 months ago, right? That they were only paying, their rate was like at the time, like 2 3/4, 3%. Well, now they're creeping up to 5.5%, 6%. I guarantee you they didn't underwrite for that. So you're going to see a lot of trades happening sooner than they anticipated.
A lot. Yeah, you're going to see some distress, but it's going to go fast because you do have these institutions sitting on the side waiting for this exact scenario. A lot of them are saying Q4, which is literally right around the corner.
Yep.
And it's just going to be like, boom, you snap your fingers and it's over.
Yep.
Not to say, but I think it's going to be like a continuous thing, right? Because you've got some arms that are going to just, you know, I think really over the next 2-3 years, it's just going to be kind of like cycles. Until we get a slowdown. I don't, you know, I love economics. And I just don't know where you're going to see, like, 2008 was so clear what led us into it, right? But I just don't know what can lead it right now, what can actually finally tank this thing to where the whole economy is like, all right, yeah, this is a recession. You know, you see the stock market. One thing I love is people aren't putting, pun intended here, as much stock into the stock market decline as they used to, right? Back in the 90s and early 2000s, the stock market tanked like it did. We would easily be saying recession. Now, some people are saying we're not even in a recession yet.
Right.
Because spending is still up. I mean, it's only dropping like 1% month over month. Consumer spending. Any insight there? What do you think?
You know, I follow a lot of economists, you know, LinkedIn, Instagram, you know, Peter Schiff. I don't know if you know Peter Schiff. He's one of my favorites. He's very doom and gloom.
Yes.
But, you know, he has been saying that because the government printed all of this money in the last 2 years, right? 40% of all currency ever created was created in the last 2 years.
Absolute insanity. Yeah. I cannot believe that statistic.
Yeah. And so he's saying that you have this market that's so flooded with currency cash that you're going to have this banger of a recession to try and correct what's happening, provided the government doesn't step in. His mentality is if the government steps in to try and stop the recession, it's going to make it even worse. Right. So I don't know, man. I mean, that's why I think real estate is the safest play that you could do in any market, because regardless, someone always needs a place to live and someone always needs a place to store their stuff. Right.
Yep.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm hitting hard on the real estate button because I feel like that is your best hedge against inflation.
I completely agree, because even if you get in, you know, they say, you know, best time to buy was 20 years ago. Second best time is now. That's just always true. And, you know, there's an increased level of, you know, we don't have a bull market anymore. Like, had I been this gung-ho at this same time last year, I probably would have 3 deals under my belt already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you could trip and stumble into something that penciled if you were looking in the right place, or at least to where you could be like, oh, well, you know, in this market, you know, rental rates are going up so high, we can, you know, we're willing to take on this deal, and, you know, we're still getting 4% interest, but, you know, you just don't have that stuff anymore. So it's just a whole new level of, but, you know, we were saying offline, if we can make it through this and weather this storm and learn in this. Like as soon as things go back to, a bull market, we're going to be just riding a wave.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, totally agree. I mean, I say this all the time, and it's kind of one of those shoulda, woulda, couldas, but the money that I had put up to invest into the fitness centers, if I had invested into real estate, there'd be no question I'd be a multimillionaire by now.
Same. If I would have done the same with the stock market that I did.
Yeah. Because I was saying when the crash happened in 08, the housing crash, I was saying back then, well, you're going to see multifamily explode because no one is going to be able to afford a house and someone needs a place to live, right? And there's a housing shortage in America right now. I can't remember what the stat is. You remember? It's like some staggering amount of.
Yeah, we're like 10 million units behind or something crazy.
10 or 13 million units behind. Yeah. And and really the 08 recession just amplified that.
And this is one thing that scares me, and you're already starting to see it. I just did that 3-day self-storage academy in Orlando. Do development banks stop lending on development because it becomes so risky in these economic times that development is like, I just read a Wall Street Journal article, development, home building and residential is already down.
Yeah.
2%.
2% down
month over month. And it's just crazy because it's like now more than ever, we need it.
Yeah.
And so, again, this is what points back to multifamily or some sort of, real estate where people have to live. Now, I know people still like office and industrial, and those things are, well, industrial is not really discounted. Office is discounted, but I just think it's too risky for me. I know people are willing to take it on, but anytime it's somewhere someone has to put their stuff or they have to live, I just think you really, it'll weather the storm. If may not look how you want, it may not be the sexy returns your investors are used to seeing, but it's just going to weather the storm.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. Well, and that's why you're seeing a lot of these big institutional guys like Blackstone. I think it was Blackstone. Blackstone just they're raising a fund right now to go out and do build to rents.
Yep.
Across the country, and it's like some staggering amount of it's like a $2 billion fund or something like that. I don't remember the exact number, but it's big, right? So that says something right there that these big guys know that there's something there.
Yes. And anytime they're doing something, there's serious opportunity there. But the other thing you guys got to take with a grain of salt with these guys is, again, like we said, their cost of capital is so low.
Right.
They're good with thin margins, because when you're putting $2 billion into something, it's fine that you're only making 2%.
Yeah. And I can actually, I can add on to that in relation to the fitness industry, right? So, we were talking before we went live that on the gym side, before I had created my own brand, I was looking at going with the Crunch brand, right? And Crunch is very similar to Planet Fitness, but Crunch is a little bit more of a gym mentality, right? They've got free weights, they've got more of the gym stuff. But regardless of those two brands, the big play there is you get a certain number of units open. Now you become extremely attractive to private equity. So like all of these Planet guys, right? Once you get to 3+ units, 5+ units, your multiple becomes a 7 to 8 of EBITDA. So if your EBITDA on these gyms are, let's say,
explain EBITDA.
EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization.
It's basically the business version of an NOI.
Right. So these things are trading at 7 to 8 times EBITDA. So if let's just use round numbers. Let's say one location is doing $500,000 in EBITDA, and you've got 5 locations. That means you're doing $2.5 million in EBITDA. And if that's trading at an 8 multiple, that's $20 million, right? Is that math right? 20 million?
Yeah, 20. What you said, 2.5 times
Two and a
8,
half times 8 is-
24 million.
yeah.
So 22. I don't know.
Please invest with us.
Yeah, actually, you guys, I've made my own underwriting model, and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
math always.
Let's just break it out. So 2.5 times 8, 20 million. Yeah.
Yeah, you were
okay.
right. Nice. Okay, sweet.
Okay, so 20
Please
million
invest with us.
dollars is what these private equity guys are willing to pay for these things because it's a cash play, right? And all they're doing is they're holding for 3 to 5 years, just like real estate, 3 to 5 years, and then they're flipping it to the next guy because it's just a churn of cash flow. That's all it is. So
Yeah, it's crazy. And you talk to, like, I've had self-storage, and it's the same thing in multifamily, right? You get to a certain unit size in multifamily in real estate area, and speak words in self-storage, it's usually, a certain amount of rentable square footage. And then all of a sudden these REITs are paying attention to you, so you go from buying maybe doing 3 deals on your own, or like whatever group. And then all of a sudden now you can take on a portfolio. Then the next thing you know, you double by taking on a portfolio. And then now you're doing portfolio deals. And then you do 4 or 5 of those. And the next thing you know, a REIT comes in and then you sell a portfolio deal. And it's just this like compounding thing that builds. But, and it sounds like it's the same in the gym world as well. But of course, it's much easier said than done.
totally. Yeah. I mean, I think timing is everything, right? One gentleman I know that owns, I think he's got about 80 Planet Fitnesses now. He got in when Planet Fitness was just starting to franchise. So we're talking close to 15 years ago. He got in at the right time because once Planet Fitness started franchising is when you started seeing all of those commercials for the lunk alarm, and it just exploded. And then from there, like everyone just started, opening these things up. So
yeah, it's crazy. And these are all, do any of these guys ever own the like retail centers they're in or anything, or
not
all
no,
leases?
no. It would be smart because then they could have a really good depreciation play, right? And offset a lot of those taxes that they're having to pay on all of that money that they're making out of those things. But no, a lot of these guys, well, ironically, or not, the gentleman I was just speaking of, he is the only privately held Planet Fitness franchisee in their network. Everyone else that was private has now sold off to private equity. He's the only one left that still owns it all himself.
Wow.
Every other franchisee is owned by private equity.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And he's just waiting. So is the industry back? Was there a lot of pent up demand that's just now it's just flooded? For gyms like fitness?
For COVID actually did the fitness industry a favor, fortunately or unfortunately. Unfortunately, because I think it's 12,000 gyms closed permanently from COVID is the figure.
Wow.
And look, I don't ever want to see anybody have to close their doors because the majority of those gyms that closed were mom and pops.
Yeah,
those were people's
right.
livelihoods.
Right.
At the same time, it weeded out the people that could not stay competitive,
And it really depended where you were at too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, what state you were in. You said you were only down for about 3 months. Where are you at?
So I'm in Northwest Indiana. I'm about 30 minutes from the city of Chicago.
Okay.
I just say I'm from Chicago, which people from Chicago hate when I say that because I'm actually in Indiana, but we're so close to we're actually part of Chicagoland.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So Indiana, I mean, that's a good example, right? Indiana, we were only closed for about 10 weeks, which is comparatively to most states is not bad. Illinois, however, was closed for several months.
Yeah, Chicago especially was
Yeah.
just barely came back like a few months ago.
Yeah. Yeah. And
But
even
that
when they did
place,
open, they had a ton of restrictions, you know?
yeah, that place, I mean, that place is just a war zone right now.
Yeah, it is. It's bad, you know. And I've got a buddy that has 5 gyms in Oregon, which was made Illinois look like a cakewalk. I mean, Oregon, that poor guy was closed for months. And then when he was finally able to reopen, he was only allowed 6 people in his club at one time. Now these are 20,000 square foot facilities, and he was only allowed 6 people per time each time. I mean, just
But he
we
made
can
it
go on
through.
and on about that, on the political side of that, at least.
But he made it through.
He made it through. I mean, by the skin of his teeth. I mean, he's barely there, and a lot of us still aren't doing the numbers that we were doing pre-COVID.
Really?
Yeah, we saw a massive shift in our demographics in the clubs. I mean, across the board, because I'm a part of a roundtable that's all the other gym owners in the U.S.
Right.
And all of us see the same thing. The older demographic is not coming back, so 50 plus. We're seeing our average age shift downward, so more people 18 to 25 are joining. So before COVID, in my clubs, my average age was like 39 years old. And it was pretty much split 50-50 male, female, right? Now, our average age is closer to like 30, 31, which is a significant shift.
Yeah.
And we're seeing much more males joining than females.
Interesting. Any idea where they're going? Is there data to follow to figure out what?
One thing is a lot of people got home equipment, especially the females.
Yeah.
The females are more, I don't know if I should make this statement. They're fearful, right? Because they're motherly. And this is just my assumption. They're motherly. They don't want germs getting to their kids and then worrying about their kids, right?
Right.
So I think that's why they
fair.
were more prone to stay at home longer than actually coming back. That's just my theory. So I don't know. I think eventually everyone will come back because people can work out at home for so long. And then they're like, okay, this is boring. You know, people like that culture in the gym. It's
Totally.
almost like a tribe. They like coming there. I call it the fitness person's bar, right? Because they'll come in, they'll BS with their friends. They'll spend more time gabbing than they will actually doing a workout.
We all have seen those people who are like, okay,
Yeah.
I've been here 30 minutes and you are still standing there.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I had a member yesterday who's great. He's a great guy. He was leaving. He's like, Bo, I got a really good jaw workout today, you know, because I'm always giving him crap about just talking more than actually working out.
That's so funny. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting for sure. And also I think you're seeing a lot of these apartment complexes now that are being built and they're putting gyms in there too.
Beautiful gyms.
Beautiful gyms.
Beautiful gyms. Yeah. Yeah. People, especially the younger generation, they like convenience.
Yeah.
Right. They like just ease of access and not have to do a lot of extra legwork.
Dude, imagine living in a facility. We have some here in Salt Lake that have been built now where there's a grocery store at the bottom, right? So it's like a mixed use, but like A-class mixed use, you know, like 300 plus units, but mixed use. So you got a decent grocery store, like well-sized grocery store. You got a gym, you know, sometimes some other retail. Like imagine not even having to leaving like a compound. You don't even have to leave your apartment complex to do everything.
I know. Yeah. That's crazy, isn't it?
I know. What a different world we live in now.
Yeah, I think that you're another theory. I think you're going to see a lot more fitness centers having to become very creative with their offerings to entice people out, right?
Yeah.
It used to be just, you know, throw some cardio, throw some free weights in there, you know, slap some paint on the walls, make it look nice. Now you're seeing a lot more fitness centers open that look like nightclubs.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to attract, you know, they're trying to draw those people in. And I'm seeing a lot more money being spent on the build out of these clubs, which, I mean, build out is expensive, man. I mean,
that equipment, some of these brand name equipment like Rogue and some of these names, the price tag per pound on this stuff, I'm like, how are these gyms building these?
Yeah.
And then coming in here and, you know, I guess they're just trying to get people in the door because they're like, oh, $10 a month starting out. And you're like, okay, well, how long are you planning on taking a loss for?
Yeah. I mean, the $10 model, which is in the industry, we call HVLP, high volume, low price. It's just that you're betting on the volume and trying to get 10,000 members paying, you know, an average of $15 a month. And you know that only X are actually going to show up, which is, you know, it's in the long run, it's a bad thing because, okay, similar to apartments, similar to self-storage, you want that customer to stay. You spend more money on churning a customer than just having them stay.
For sure.
Right? So in the gym industry, especially if you're a low price point, your churn is like 50%. So you're spending a lot of money on marketing to just try and keep new people coming in. But again, another theory, I think that that's going to shift because your inflation numbers just came out 9.1%. I don't see how some of the low price models are going to be able to afford to stay at $10 a month. I just don't.
No. And honestly, and this is purely subjective, but you really, like you said, if you want customers to stick, you got to hit at least that in between price point where they feel like they're at like here we had a bunch of Gold's gyms for a long time. They rebranded to Vasa. Vasa's they have locations kind of around the West.
Yep.
But they never fixed their equipment. Like equipment would be down for weeks.
Right.
You know, and a new gym just came in called EOS, and I'm a member there. Yep. And for their top tier, I think I pay like $30 a month. I can go to any location. I think they're just here in Utah for now. But stuff's getting fixed. Like it's a nice facility. And I think that's where you're going to start seeing more of if you're going to do a gym is you got to have that mid-tier price point. You got to take care of your equipment and make people want to go there and feel like they can actually get their work out. People, you know, there's more than one bench press and that kind of stuff.
Yep. Yeah, totally agree. Yeah. Which the supply chain has been affecting a lot of the repair on equipment. I mean, one of our vendors that we get equipment from told me that they've had shipping containers out at sea sitting for 9 months.
How are these ships even sitting out there? Do they just turn off?
I don't know. That's a good question. Are they like bringing food to the people? I mean, what are they doing? Yeah,
it's so nuts to me.
Yeah.
These places, these ports need to open. I mean, I don't want to get political here, but China needs to open. They need to stop shutting down for
Johnny.
COVID.
Let's get into this. Let's get into weeds. Let's try and fix world's problems today.
Fixing them all right now. I have every answer. Ask me a question. I have the answer. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. But again, you know, it just comes full circle back to real estate, man. It just it's a tried and true. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You know, you can really. And, you know, for those that are sitting on the sidelines, I get it. As long as you have a plan, I just hate to see people who are like, oh, I'm just going to see what happens. And then they're a year into it and they still haven't done anything and their money's eroded. Like literally we're seeing real time erosion if you're just sitting in cash.
Yep.
And, you know, then they're like, oh, well, now I'm really going to wait because we're even deeper in the recession. So, you know, listen, can't give advice, neither can boast. So none of this is advice. You know, obviously always talk to actual advisors, but just be careful sitting on the sidelines too long.
Agreed. Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's jump to the final 5 here as we wind down. First question, best advice you've gotten from a mentor?
That's a good question. I would say probably take it slow, do your due diligence. A lot of us just want to go warp speed and just try and take over the world, which is what I'm trying to do. But especially nowadays, I mean, as I said earlier, underwritten almost 600 deals, only 2% are penciling. Imagine if I tried to fudge my numbers to make them work, right? I would be SOL in 2 to 3 years from now. So take it slow, do your due diligence. Know your market.
Yep. Know your market. Guys, this is a get rich slow scheme. Okay. You will get rich if you do it right, but you got to be okay with the long game, especially now. You literally have no choice now if you're getting into it, but to plan for 3, 5, 7-year holds on your debt side too.
Yeah.
10-year agency debt looks even more appealing now because at least you can get a low fixed rate.
Yeah.
Like you were saying off camera, or in the beginning, these bridge lenders now are having to get creative because bridge debt does not look appealing at all.
Right.
These rate caps. So yeah, it's crazy, but I like that it's more of a challenge. Certainly starting out, I would have loved to have been able to just jump in and get a few deals, but in 3 years, obviously you and I know we'll stay in contact, but we're going to look back in 3 years and be laughing at ourselves.
100%. It's kind of like, I hate to keep relating back to the gyms, but it's kind of like what I said earlier. If you play the long game, it's going to weed out all the people that aren't serious. We're serious, right? We know this is a 5, 10, 15-year play, and we're willing to put in the reps, right? And that's the only way you're going to be successful in any business. It's not just real estate. It's not gyms. It's literally any business. You need to commit for 10 years at a minimum.
Yep.
At a minimum.
I know. I just think with social media, you see all these crypto guys who just got rich quick and everybody thinks that they can just do anything to get, like I did that self-storage academy and there were definitely a few people there who were like, oh, you could see the light bulb shut off when they realized this was not going to get them rich in a year from now.
Yeah. Right.
So what is it about your career that makes you feel like you're fulfilling your why?
I like the idea that, not now, but eventually there'll be generational wealth and I'll be able to take care of my family, my parents, my immediate family. And, we'll have that financial freedom to, do what we want when we want kind of thing. That's my ultimate goal. And real estate is honestly the only business I know of that you can actually do that with.
Yep. Totally. Favorite non-real estate or investment related book?
Non-real estate or investment?
Yeah.
Ray Dalio Principles.
That's on my list. I need to put it at the top. That's his new one. Is that his new one that he just wrote?
That's his first one.
His first one. Okay.
That's his first one. Fabulous book. To me, I think Ray is a great leader because he definitely thinks out of the box with his management style. And look what he's done. He's the largest privately owned hedge fund in the world. I started from nothing.
And, you get a lot of these economists. I feel like he definitely falls in as an economist. You get these economists who are sort of like the doomsday ones and, they just keep throwing out these stuff and then eventually they're right. And everyone's like, oh yeah, he predicted it 20 years ago. And it's like, yeah, but how many other predictions has he made?
Right.
Whereas he is like almost always spot on, even with some of these like kind of from left field theories. And then they come to fruition and you're like, whoa.
And he's global.
And he shares everything.
Yeah. And he's global with his strategy, right? So he looks at the entire picture of what's going on, not just domestically, but internationally, because it's all interchangeable. It's all interlinked.
I know. I still am too blinders on in the domestic world. I need to start expanding my global view. Cause I'm like, oh yeah, you look at this and all of a sudden, like the war in Ukraine has a major effect right now, and there's important things to pay attention out there for sure.
100%. Yes.
If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Probably flight. I'd love to be able to fly.
You got to. Hey, just going to step out for a quick
Yeah.
fly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sweet. What's the best way people get a hold of you and learn more?
Probably Instagram or LinkedIn is the best way to get a hold of me.
Cool. What are your handles?
LinkedIn is just Bo DePaoli. And then Instagram is I am Bo D with periods in between each letter or each word.
Classic. I love it.
Yeah.
Bo, you're the man. Always
Thanks,
good talking
Jonny.
to you. Of course,
Yeah,
we're going
man.
to stay in touch, but appreciate your time.
Thanks, buddy.
Absolutely. Thank you again for tuning in. Who do you know that wants more cash flow? Share this episode with them so you can grow your cash flow together. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you're subscribed on your platform of choice so you never miss a new episode. Go to CataniCapitalGroup.com to learn more.